Peter and Harry are still finding their footing as heroes, and Ben and Jonah are working on a big story. So what happens when their worlds collide? Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. If you enjoy this story, be sure to support the industry and go check it out at your local comic shop. Today we continue the story of Ultimate Spider-Man as he continues to prep for the Maker's return with Ultimate Spider-Man 9 and 10. I hope you enjoy. September. Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson sit in a bar in New York. Neither have a happy look on their face, and Ben motions for another beer. The bartender raises an eyebrow at the two grumpy old men. "Can't you tell we're celebrating?" Jameson asks as he finishes his beer. The bartender shrugs and pours them more drinks, and the two turn to each other and toast. "Shall we drink to our success?" Ben asks. Jameson shakes his head. "No, to victory and achieving everything we've ever wanted," Jameson sighs. As the two continue to drink, the door opens up and MJ walks in with a big smile. "There they are, my two favorite entrepreneurs," she says as she walks over and puts her hand on their shoulders. But neither of the old newsmen look happy. "Why the sour looks, gentlemen? Did something happen that I don't know about?" she asks. Jameson reaches for his tablet and brings up all their latest stories, all of which have been hits since the paper went public. Each story showcases Spider-Man fighting crime with fantastic pictures. "It's our first month of the paper being live, and 8 of our top 10 stories are about Spider-Man," Jameson sighs. Ben nods, chiming in that they want to report real stories that no one else is talking about. But all they've been reporting is sensationalism. MJ smiles. "You two aren't getting it," she explains, telling them that with all these stories and Peter's pictures, they are building a fan base with new subscribers every day, and that this is making them untouchable. She leans in. "In the next 6 months, the two of you are going to be bigger than the Bugle," she whispers. Jameson smiles for the first time. "Oh, I do like the sound of that," he says. She takes Ben's hand. "These numbers, what they mean is the devil cannot cast you out. They mean that you can write whatever you want, and the people will see it," she says. Ben and Jonah look at each other and smile, finally in a good mood over their success. Meanwhile, Spider-Man and Green Goblin arrive at Oscorp Building, where they find Dr. Octavius waiting for them. As they walk in, Otto is happy to see them, smiling and explaining that he has finally developed freedom for them. "Freedom from Stain and Stark, for both of you," he explains. Harry removes his helmet and smiles. "Nice. How'd you do it?" he asks. Otto taps a few buttons on his computer and brings Harry a new operating system, explaining that he merely had to develop new firmware for Harry's suit, overriding the Stark carrier signal that all Stark tech runs on. But then he frowns and turns to Peter. "As for you, Spider-Man, I've had to go a little further outside the box, as your suit remains a hyper-advanced enigma that I can't solve," Otto says. He leads them across the room and reaches for a sheet that is covering something. "Therefore, you're going to need a new one, which I have designed myself," he says, preparing to pull the sheet and reveal his creation. But Peter stops him. "Give me a second," he says as he turns away. Harry and Otto watch as Peter begins to pace the room, talking to the AI version of himself inside his nanosuit. "So what do we think?" Peter asks himself. AI Peter doesn't like the idea of sitting on the sidelines, but also isn't a fan of Stark being able to track them. "So what do we do with you?" Peter whispers. "I'll bet you a limitless credit card whose balance gets paid off every month that the good doctor tries to keep me," the AI Peter responds. Peter turns back to Otto, asking what he plans on doing with the Picotech suit. Sinister shadows almost seem to play across Otto's face. "I was thinking the best thing we could do would be build some kind of containment cage for it. That seems like the safest choice. Plus, It would give me more time to figure things out. You know, play around with it a little bit, Otto says. Don't you dare leave me with him, AI Peter shouts in Peter's ear. AI Peter suggests that Peter just leave him at home until all things get sorted out. Worst case scenario, I'm the best home defense system you could possibly have, AI Peter says. Finally, Peter agrees and asks Otto to show him the new suit. Otto pulls back the sheet, revealing the Spider Armor Mark I. He smiles as he begins to run through the specs, pointing out that it is bulletproof and armed with a wide assortment of weapons, including upgraded web shooters, guns, and missiles. So, what do you think? Otto asks with a smile. Peter stares at the armor for a moment, but he finally shakes his head. I think I'm good, he tells the doc. Otto seems shocked that Spider-Man wouldn't want this new war suit, but Harry throws an arm around Otto's shoulder, pointing out that the suit might be a little much for Spider-Man, who is more of an agile fighter. Otto begins to nod his head. Yes, it's possible it's a tad over-designed. There is a simpler solution, he says, turning back to Peter. Cool, whatever it is, I'll take it, Peter says. Later, Spider-Man and Green Goblin stand on a rooftop, with Peter tugging at his new suit. I really do like your new suit, Harry offers. Shut up, it's spandex, Peter groans. Harry shakes his head. Otto was very clear about it being a spandex Kevlar composite, he points out. The two continue to talk and joke as friends, with Peter inviting Harry and Gwen to spend Christmas with his family. Suddenly, a strange tingle begins to go off in Peter's head. He suddenly reacts, shouting a warning to Harry before leaping away. Look out! Peter shouts, but an electric dart hits Harry in the neck, disabling his armor and dropping him to the ground. Spider-Man whirls as the black cat descends on them. He better be okay, Spider-Man growls as he drops into a fighting stance. Black Cat shrugs, a smile playing across his lips as he paces across the rooftop, unfurling a whip from around his waist. I'd worry about myself. You're both in the same boat after all, he says. Spider-Man narrows his eyes at the crime lord. You know, it's not polite to start a fight without introducing yourself, he quips. Black Cat nods and prepares himself. His muscles are tightening, ready to fight. I am the shadow in the night, a whisper of a dream. My enemies call me the Black Cat, the man says. He moves quickly, lashing out with the whip and cracking it against Spider-Man's chest, tearing through his new suit and cutting into his skin. The whip comes back and lashes out again, but Spider-Man is ready this time, leaping and flipping over the attack. But the whip slashes through the support struts of a water tower, bringing it crashing down on Spidey. The hero rolls away as the water pours over him, and Black Cat stalks forward, rolling up his whip and wrapping it around the hero's throat. He pulls it tight, cutting off Spidey's airflow. The Kingpin of New York has called together all its captains to play the great game. You and the Goblin? You are both prey and prize, Black Cat hisses. Peter gasps behind his mask, struggling for air. Your lives are forfeit, Black Cat says with a smile. Peter continues to gasp and struggle. And what do you get? He demands. Black Cat shakes his head. That is none of your business, he hisses. But Peter grabs him by the arms, twisting himself free and throwing the criminal away. Well, I guess that gives me something to live for. He jokes as he shoots webs to pin Black Cat to the roof. Black Cat struggles for a moment before giving up. He slumps into the webbing. I suppose living is for the young, and I am an old man. This day has been coming for some time. Go ahead, get it over with, he says. But Spidey doesn't know what he's talking about. You are going to kill me now, aren't you? Black Cat asks. Spidey stares at him for a moment before shaking his head. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous, he says. Spidey turns back to Green Goblin, tapping his friend on the helmet. Hey, are you okay in there? He asks. But he doesn't see Black Cat behind him, pulling out an energy blade and cutting through the webbing. The villain stalks forward, prepared to take Spider-Man's life. But at that moment, Green Goblin's armor reboots. "Look out!" Harry shouts, pushing Peter out of the way and firing a blast into Black Cat's chest, sending him over the edge of the building. The old criminal screams as he plummets towards the pavement below. Spidey and Goblin rush to the edge of the roof and stare down at the fallen foe, but they see him twitch. "He's still moving! Call an ambulance!" Spidey tells his friend. Minutes later, they watch as the EMTs put the Black Cat in the back of an ambulance. Peter pulls off his mask and whirls on his friend, demanding to know what he was thinking by shooting the criminal off the roof. "What do you mean? My suit just came back online and you had your back on him. He had a weapon. I did what I had to do," Harry snaps back at him. The two argue, but Harry explains to Peter that he would do whatever he had to protect his friends and family. But Peter shakes his head. "We can't be like them. We're supposed to be heroes. We're supposed to be better than them," Peter tells him. Peter finally smiles. "Well, just so you know, you're still invited to Christmas," he says. Harry smiles and throws an arm around Peter's shoulder. "I'll get the kids something cool. I'm thinking something spandex," Harry says as they walk away, and Peter sighs. "Harry, you just might be the worst best friend a guy could have," he jokes. October. A chill has settled over New York City, but Ben Parker meets Jonah at the car with a smile and a coffee. But Jonah is a grumpy man in the morning and gets in the car. Ben explains to him that there might be a break in the story they're writing as they begin to drive through the city. They arrive at a country club on Long Island, where they slip inside and find Mr. Wesley, Wilson Fisk's lawyer, eating his lunch and going over paperwork. "Mind if we sit?" Ben asks. Wesley looks at them in surprise and explains that he normally eats alone, but Jonah pulls out a chair and sits down with a big smile. "That's okay, we don't have long and I assume the service here is a little slow," Jonah says. Wesley shrugs. "Actually, the service along with the food is excellent. I do suppose the security could be better," he points out. Ben introduces the two and explains to the lawyer that they are writing a story and were hoping that he could help them. He puts down a folder, opening it to reveal paperwork that shows the Stark Stain Company was sold for an amount of money that was authorized by Fisk. This paperwork shows the authorization of the sale to an offshore company that's owned by another offshore company, and so on and so on, Ben points out. He would like to know who the true buyer was, pointing out that he will find out eventually, but was hoping that Wesley would save him the time and effort. Wesley adjusts his glasses and shakes his head. "If that's what you're really looking for, then you need to look somewhere else," he says. He glances over the reporter's shoulders as the club's security finally arrives and escorts the two gentlemen out. 1 week later, Ben and Jonah are continuing the work, running down the real buyer behind the purchase of Stark Stain. Finally, Ben has figured it out, and Jonah pins a piece of paper on the board, taping the name Oscorp. 1 week after that, the pair find themselves at the headquarters of Oscorp Industries, where they meet with Gwen Osborne, wife of Harry Osborne and financial benefactor of the paper. "Ah, if it isn't my two favorite reporters on planet Earth," Gwen says with a smile from behind her desk, motioning for the reporters to sit. They quickly exchange pleasantries and get straight to the point, with Ben pulling out a tape recorder and beginning to ask his questions. Who arranged the sale? Why are you working so hard to hide the fact that you own Stark Stain? What happened to all Stark's technology? And why do all these things coincide with people suddenly flying through the air in armored suits? Ben asks. Gwen stares at them for a moment. Care to comment? Jonah asks. She finally nods. Sure, she says softly. I want my damn money back, she finally snaps at them. 2 days later, Harry Osborne stands outside the doors to the paper's office. He knocks and is greeted by both Ben and Jonah. Harry asks them what it would take for them to not print the story about Oscorp. But Ben shakes his head, explaining that they aren't writing a story on Oscorp, that they are merely trying to figure out why Osborn bought Stark Stain, a sale that was authorized by Fisk, and then immediately, a new armored hero was spotted flying around the city. What we think is that Oscorp took existing Iron Man tech, put a new coat of paint on it, and shined it up real nice, Ben explains. Here's our real question. We know Fisk enabled the sale of the company to Oscorp, and we also know that you and your spider friend have been waging a two-person war on the Fisk Empire. So, why would Fisk sell you the thing that you're using to destroy him? They ask. Harry finally admits that when they purchased the company, they found the truth buried in Stark's mainframe about the secret group that was running the world. The group that actually controls Fisk. He holds up a thumb drive and offers it to the reporters. This is the real story. They're the ones who did it all. They killed my parents, and they killed your wife, Harry says to Ben. He hands them the drive and tells them to be careful. These people are dangerous and ruthless. You have friends and family. There's a reason I wear a mask. I wouldn't put my name anywhere near this story, Harry tells them, but Ben and Jonah smile at each other. Who said we were? Ben says. Later that night, Jonah has finished writing the article. Ben reads it over his shoulder and nods with approval. They both stare at the screen, the headline asking, "Who really controls Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin of New York?" The story is the first story by the paper's elusive reporter, Ben Reilly. And there you have it. What is going to happen now that the world is going to learn about Wilson Fisk and the Council? You'll have to subscribe to find out next time. And of course, like the video and leave a comment. And we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.